The Trump regime is refusing to release Volume 2 of Special Counsel Jack Smith's report, and they're saying Judge Eileen Cannon has blocked the release of this report, therefore we can't make it public. At the same time, the Department of Justice accidentally just leaked Volume 2 of the report in a case where they are trying to prosecute somebody who was a former federal prosecutor, saying that this former federal prosecutor unlawfully emailed Volume 2 from her DOJ account to her personal Gmail account in violation of a federal judge's order and in violation of the law. Let me break that down because that may seem a little bit confusing to you, but the headline takeaway is that the DOJ accidentally leaked this report that they are claiming nobody can see. But during discovery in a criminal case, they were so sloppy, as we've seen them before. They're such a mess with everything that they don't handle things carefully, that at the very core of the case was this idea that they claim nobody should be able to do anything with Volume 2, even send yourself to your Gmail if you're a prosecutor, that's a violation. Then what do? Then they accidentally sent it to that person's lawyer. So there's a case right now that's taken place, and it's called the People versus Carmen Mercedes Lineberger. She was a top DOJ prosecutor in the Southern District of Florida, Fort Pierce area. And the Department of Justice, as part of their kind of investigations for leakers, and that's what their priority is, who dare, send themselves this report. What they found out, and this is what they allege in a criminal case, that Carmen Mercedes Lineberger, when she was a federal prosecutor, she oversaw prosecutors, that she renamed Volume 2 to personal cookbook.pdf or something. And then she emailed it to her Gmail account. There's no allegation that once it was in her Gmail account, that she sent it to family members or that she sent it to the press. It would have been nice if she sent it to the press. But there's no allegation that she did any of that. She sent it to herself, and the DOJ's prosecuting her and saying that was a violation of law. How dare you do that? Judge Eileen Cannon is our protector saint, and she says nobody can see Volume 2. I mean, the ironic thing about this all is that under any other administration, a special counsel's report like Volume 2 would always be released right after the special counsel is concluded. And just because you have this corrupt Judge Eileen Cannon who's refused to release it, the MAGA Republicans refused to release it under orders of Donald Trump, and I believe Judge Cannon's not releasing under the orders of Donald Trump. Nobody's seen a report that they should have seen. So whereas the underlying case, if we recall, was Donald Trump unlawfully taking sensitive compartmentalized information and classified information and potentially nuclear information and hoarding it and keeping it in Mar-a-Lago, which then Judge Eileen Cannon said there's no such thing as a special counsel. The very nature of a special counsel as it relates to Donald Trump shouldn't exist. And so she dismissed the case. The report itself of what was determined by Jack Smith, which should go to Congress, which should go to the public, that's being blocked. The former prosecutor, who was not on that case per se, but who was in the Fort Pierce office, emailed it to herself. The Trump regime goes after her. And then as part of the discovery in the criminal case, they turn it over. The DOJ sends the report to her lawyers. And so her lawyers then get this report that Volume 2 was sent by the DOJ. They send the report to the criminal defense lawyers of Carmen Mercedes Lineberger. And so now they're faced with this they're like, what do we do? If they opened it up, then it wouldn't shock me that the DOJ would prosecute them and say, you shouldn't have read it. If they opened it up and read a few sentences. So they said, is this a trap? Are they, why are they sending us this? Why are they sending us this? And then they had to stop. Just think about, how ethically they behaved. They then tell the DOJ, you leaked it to us in a case where you're saying the leaking was unlawful to begin with. We didn't read it, but you just sent it to us. So if you sent it to us, How is that much worse than the actual prosecutor in the office just sending it to her Gmail and not, as far as we know, not sending it to anybody else? So then the DOJ had to do a notice to the federal judge and say, yeah, we screwed it up, but we're still going to go and prosecute this former federal prosecutor for sending the document to her Gmail, even though it wasn't sent to anybody else, or it wasn't sent to the press, or it wasn't made public in any way. Get it? All right, let's bring in Harry Litman from the Talking Feds YouTube. There's so many dimensions to this story. Number one, the fact that they're putting their prosecutorial resources here, and that this has kind of gone under the radar, this story. Kind of, that's number one. Number two, something that you and I talk about, just the sloppiness. Like, they literally, you know how, if it's a classified document case or whatever, I mean, that's the main document you don't turn over, right? That's literally like in a Super Bowl match, or a Super Bowl game, turning over the playbook to the other side. It's the one thing you don't do. Like you turned over the one thing you shouldn't turn over. And then they soak three. They then cavalierly go, yeah, we're still going to prosecute it, though, whatever. Like, we're going to go after. So you have all of that at play. And then the lawyers saying, oh, crap, are we being set up here by this deal? They just said, if we read any line, now we're going to be prosecuted based on their theory of the case. Harry, break it all down.
Can you imagine the conversation between whoever sent it out and their supervisor? I've experienced things like this before, always in the other direction, where a defense attorney has given something that shouldn't have happened, and that often it'll be privilege. That can be a problem, because if you see it, you can be frozen out of the case. But this is the very crown jewels. This is what they're saying is somewhere between, the nuclear code for the football and the actual Fort Knox safety deposit, something that just can't be seen at all. And you did what? And, if it were any other judge, of course, the AUSA, if it wasn't fired, might have been on the way to a sort of 4-month sojourn. But, Cannon's just going to take it, and she's not going to berate the DOJ or be dumbfounded. There's an irony here. The defense attorney was like extra punctilious, a Boy Scout, just as you say. You get the thing, you see the first page, and it's like, holy cow. And they just put it to the side. This is definitely what the book says you should do. I'm not sure that it's not honored in the briefs, but they put it right away to the side. They call right away. They shred everything they received, and you have this sort of comical submission, if you read between the lines, to Judge Cannon, because they can't jump up and scream or say how important, but they just sort of recite, oh yeah, and it was inadvertently produced to the defense, and the government acknowledges the candor and integrity of the defense for giving it right back and not trying to exploit it. So look, it's the sort of thing that happens, but by the Department of Justice, and this very document, which they are treating like some kind of nuclear secret. I think the first lesson is, just as you say, what a kind of Keystone Cops operation. How could this, I can imagine exactly, here you are at the desk, you take the discovery, you have the cop. How something like that can happen is mind-boggling. But point number two is, in this Department of Justice, between the indifference to regularity and the knowledge that, man, oh man, do they have the right judge to backstop them and not make a fuss about it in Eileen Cannon. I think it's just sort of another day. But it is, as you say, just gobsmacking. Here is the actual volume 2. Oops. Unbelievable.
These are the types of things, though, that in any other normal time it would never happen. I mean, the very nature, when you get involved in prosecutions like this to begin with, it's like bad karma, from the outset. Like, you're doing a bad karma case and then you behave in a certain way and it results in, kind of a parade of terribles from the very outset, which is, ultimately, did this prosecutor, did this person, there's an administrative way to have dealt with this in a normal time. You sent this to your Gmail account. Did you send it anywhere else? Execute a declaration under penalty of perjury gather the evidence. If you're enforcing a work-related policy, understand how far it went out. Ultimately, if you tell me down the line that this person, was not cooperative in it and they're not talking to you and they don't explain why. I mean, if indeed they labeled it to do it, whatever, was the intent to distribute it to the press. Look, I believe that this document should be made public, for sure. But I do understand if you have rules internally about certain things, there's a process about how it goes. I certainly disagree with Judge Cannon's order, but there's a way to approach this professionally and handle it. The Trump regime runs right to felony indictment, goes right after this person, to send this kind of message. And then when they litigate it, the very thing they're trying to send the message, they send the document to the defense lawyer as their first thing. And the defense lawyer is like, what are you doing here? And it also just shows that clearly they don't think that document is that valuable if they're willing just to, how much documents could be involved in a discovery in that type? This ain't the Epstein.
It's the only document like it in the country, really. You could say it's the one they're trying the most hard to keep from public view. And remember, it's that this should be Cannon going berserk because she's the one who's made the big deal. Don't ever let anyone see it because de nada and de Oliveira's rights. Now their case is done. There's nothing there, but that's their rights, etc. There's another point. I can't say for sure, Ben, but we know that the department has been hollowed out and that in particular, they do not trust the sort of old guard and the people who have been brought in who really don't know their way to the courtroom barely may in fact be the ones who have been assigned all these so-called politically sensitive cases. So it could be in addition this extra level of irony that they're specifically putting on the junior varsity or A level or scabs or however you want to put it, and they can't even keep it together enough not to send the very document that the whole case presumes is a absolute, state secret up there with the nuclear codes.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be a state secret. It should be released. Yeah. We should all be able to see.
And by the way, it won't be. I think you and I have said this. That's going to come. The day will come when we'll see Volume 2. I don't know when, but that day will come.
I agree. Everybody, make sure you subscribe to Harry Litman's YouTube channel. It's called Talking Feds. He's got a Substack as well. Just search on YouTube Talking Feds. Tell Harry in the comments I say hello. Thanks, Harry.
Thank you, Ben.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.